As you know, there was a report of a gentleman who committed suicide a couple of days after.
Well, Lucie's family has decided to offer a reward of 1.5 million yen for the new information.
He murdered and almost got away with it. The true story of Lucie Blackman. Lucie Blackman set out on a journey to explore the world and find her place in it. But what she found was a darkness that consumed her. One day disappeared without a trace, leaving her loved ones to grapple with the haunting question, what happened to her? In this chilling tale, we'll journey through the twists and turns of a shocking murder and disappearance that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew. Join us as we unveil the secrets that lurk in the shadows and uncover the truth behind the enigmatic fate of Lucie Blackman. Rape is one of the most heinous acts a person could commit, but to do so to over 300 women would disgust even the worst of minds. Enter Joji Obara, a Korean-Japanese serial rapist, suspected of raping between 150 and 400 women. We take a look at his long-discussed history and the most well-known cases of two of his victims, Lucie Blackman and Karita Ridgway. The killer. On August 10, 1952, Obara was born under the name Kim Sung-jong. His parents were of Korean descent and had made Osaka, Japan their home. Obara's father started out as a poor scrap collector but worked his way up to become a wealthy owner of multiple properties and pachinko parlors, which are establishments that offer games that are comparable to slot machine casinos. As a result, Obara was able to attend some of the most prestigious private schools in Tokyo, and he also had access to a personal tutor who helped him become ready for enrollment at Keio University's prestigious preparatory school. 2 years after his father passed away, Obara, 17 at the time, was left with property in both Osaka and Tokyo. This opened many doors for him, allowing him to complete his schooling at Keio University and get degrees in political science and legal studies. He did a lot of traveling, became a naturalized citizen of Japan, and changed his name legally to Seisho Hoshiyama in 1970 while he was living in that country. His success in the real estate market helped him amass a wealth of around $40 million. The 1990s economic downturn affected all, especially Obara and his investment company. His investments in real estate came back to haunt him, and he wound up losing his whole fortune as a result. It is suspected that he began using his bankrupt firm as a front to launder money for the Yakuza syndicate known as Sumiyoshikai. These creditors pursued him relentlessly in an effort to collect payment. It was also common knowledge that Obara was a drug addict, a problem that only became worse when his empire collapsed. He acquired an obsession with white American women, who were seen as emblems of status by many men in Japan. This led to his corruption. It was at this time the evil in Obara emerged and became the menace he is now known for. To satisfy his obsession with women, Obara would administer a dosage of chloroform to render his victims unconscious before kidnapping and sexually assaulting them. His sexual assaults were committed on women of all races, despite the fact that he had a preference for white women. The police also discovered notebooks belonging to Obara, which he referred to as conquest play. It seems that he was using this phrase as a euphemism for sexually abusing women, whom he had previously described in his works as being just good for sex. But as we all know, a killer directly or indirectly becomes the reason for hell in the lives of many victims. And Obara did the same in the life of Lucie Blackman. Lucie Blackman, the victim. Born on September 1st, 1978, in Sevenoaks, Kent, England, Lucie Blackman had her whole life ahead of her. She worked as a flight attendant for British Airlines before deciding to move to Tokyo to work as a hostess. hoping to earn money to pay off some debts and travel the world. However, her dream quickly turned into a nightmare when she accepted a paid date with a Casablanca customer while working at a nightclub in Roppongi, Tokyo. On July 1st, year 2000, Lucie's friends received a few phone calls from her, but suddenly she vanished without a trace. Her family, devastated by her disappearance, flew to Tokyo and launched a public search for their missing loved one. The story caught the attention of British Foreign Secretary Robin Cook, who was in Tokyo at the time. Even the British Prime Minister Tony Blair raised the problem during a meeting with Japanese Prime Minister Yoshiro Mori. Newspapers were contacted and a public campaign was launched to find Lucie. An anonymous businessman even donated £100,000 prize for any information concerning the case. But the truth was far more horrifying than anyone could have imagined. 3 ladies came forward, revealing they had woken up hurting and unwell in the bed of the same man, Joji Obara, with no memory of what had happened the night before. Reports had been made to the Roppongi police, but nothing had been done to assist them. Then, on February 9, 2001, Lucie's bones were discovered in a small grave beneath a bathtub thrown in a beach cave in Miura, Kanagawa. Her skull had been shaved, and her body had been sawed into 10 portions before stored in separate bags and encased in concrete. Her severe decay made determining a cause of death impossible. Joji Obara, a wealthy businessman, was eventually arrested and charged with Lucie's rape and murder. He admitted that he had made a drink for her that contained a medication that rendered her unconscious. Although he admitted to adding the medicine to her drink, he claimed innocence to her death. He said that Lucie took narcotics voluntarily and without his help. But Lucie was not the only victim of Obara's cruelty. Karida Ridgway, another victim. Karida Ridgway was just a waitress at a modest pub in Tokyo's Ginza district, but she was saving every penny to pursue her dream of becoming an actress. In this part of town, a hostess like her was supposed to engage men in conversation, light their cigarettes or cigars, sing karaoke, or dance, but no touching or proposing was allowed. However, little did she know that her encounter with the monster would change everything. On one fateful night, Obara offered a ride home after a long shift at the pub. Little did she know that this would be her last ride. Obara injected her with chloroform and raped her. He gave her such a high dosage that her liver failed, and she died a brain death. Obara panicked and rushed her to the hospital, where he lied to the staff about her illness, using a fake identity. Karida's family was left in shock and disbelief when they received the news of her sudden demise. Her ashes were flown back to Australia, where she was cremated. Her death was initially recorded as hepatitis E, and the authorities in Japan and Australia showed no interest in investigating the case further. It was only after Obara's arrest that her death was considered a homicide. The investigation of Obara's residence uncovered a videotape of him raping an unconscious Karida. It was a chilling sight. A young girl who wanted nothing more than to become an actress, being brutally raped by a monster. And to make it even worse, his journal entry read, "Karida Ridgway, too much chloroform." It's heartbreaking to think about what Karida must have gone through. The pain and the horror of being raped and killed by a man she barely knew. Her story is a reminder that we must do everything we can to protect ourselves and the people we love. We must speak up against any form of violence and ensure that those responsible for such heinous acts are held accountable for their actions. Karida Ridgway fought for her life in front of this devil, but unfortunately she couldn't make it. Her story is just as tragic as Lucie's. The pain and suffering of these 2 innocent women are unimaginable. They were both bright, talented, and full of life, but their lives were taken away by a monster. It's hard to comprehend how someone like Obara could be capable of such evil. Lucie's family and friends had to live with the pain of not knowing what happened to her for months until they finally got some answers. The trial. Obara was tried in July 2001 and found guilty of many rapes based on the reports of various women and the retrieved videotapes. He was also convicted of Carlita's rape and manslaughter, but acquitted of Lucie's murder due to a lack of concrete evidence. While there was a film of his interaction with Carlita, and he was identified as the man who drove her to the hospital, there was no proof linking him to Lucie's death. A friend of Obara's gave £450,000 to Lucie's father, Tim Blackman, as mimaikin, a consolation payment for the loss. He used the money to create a trust in Lucie's name to promote personal safety. While Obara had certainly hoped that this gesture, made to a number of his victims, would help him gain favor with the court, he was mistaken. The court assured him that the gesture had no bearing on his fate. The court condemned him to life in jail for his offenses. The decision to acquit Obara in the Lucie Blackman case drew much criticism. The public prosecutor challenged the Blackman-related verdicts based on forensic evidence that was not accessible during the initial trial. On December 16, 2008, an appeals court ruled Obara guilty of kidnapping, dissection, and disposal of Lucie's body. Obara's defense attorney sought an appeal, which was rejected in December 2010 by the Supreme Court of Japan, which affirmed his life sentence. For the many other suspected Obara victims, the only justice is knowing that Obara is sentenced to life in prison. Thank you for joining. If you enjoy peeling back the truth behind these type of stories, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for the next shocking story to come. Stay curious and stay safe.